This past Sunday, say it like it is, Lions got embarrassed. They got embarrassed. They got pantsed in front of their family, friends, God, and everybody. They got their culo exposed to the girl they like on TV. It's not fun. It's unenjoyable. But the fact is, this happens in the NFL. It happens every single year. I want you to go back and look at every single team that's ever won a championship, ever. And I'll find you a loss that they got completely embarrassed in. That's not to say that excuses the embarrassment, but it is to say it's a part of, especially an NFL season, to lose games in embarrassing fashion. I mean, I'm old enough to remember when the Chiefs lost to the Vegas Raiders on Christmas, and they ended up winning the Super Bowl that year. Do people remember this? I remember this. That was probably about as bad of a loss as you can get on Christmas, of all holidays, on the happiest day of the year. Anyway, let's get into the good first. So the defense, I think, played pretty well. And I know the 27 points, you think, oh my gosh, 27 points, that's not great. You got to think of it this way. Minnesota is basically starting in positive territory every couple of possessions. Throughout the game, I mean, they scored the 2 touchdowns at the beginning in the first quarter. They didn't score any more touchdowns until the third quarter, and that was it. They scored just 1 touchdown that whole second half. You know, J.J. McCarthy was held to less than 150 yards, had an interception. You know, he was comfortable for a time and then couldn't really move the football. If they didn't get good field position, couldn't really do much. Aaron Jones, he was running all over you, then he gets hurt. So, you know, you take that what you will. And Justin Jefferson really didn't get to feast. Jordan Addison was their leading receiver. Let me see exactly how many yards Jefferson had. Just 47 yards, so a little off on there, but he really didn't feast on you. It was like overall, I was fine with the defensive performance. I would have liked to see Aiden Hutchinson feast a little bit more on his old teammate, but it is what it is. He still got a sack at least. Now, as far as the bad, there's a lot to talk about, unfortunately. So the bad is that overall, just say it like it is, the offense just straight up played poorly. Now, there's a few reasons for this. Number one, and I think the thing that people are just either not talking about enough or just overlooking entirely, they couldn't run the football. Your leading rusher had 40 yards on 11 carries. Jahmyr Gibbs was completely taken out of the game. You can't run the football, it's going to be a really hard way to win a football game. It really is. And once the run game was eliminated, you know, your offense becomes pretty one-dimensional, literally, because you're throwing the ball most of the time. Jared Goff threw the ball almost 40 times. That's usually not a winning strategy. Last time I can remember him throwing that much was against the Texans, and they barely won that game last year. So they got rid of the run game. And the other major concern was, of course, the offensive line, because obviously, I already talked about they couldn't run the ball, but Jared Goff was getting pressured like crazy. And usually he does pretty well in these spots. He's one of the better quarterbacks against the blitz. Unfortunately, wasn't having a good day. And guys are allowed to have bad days. And even on his bad day, he still threw for 284 yards and a couple of touchdowns. So I know that's not, you know, his QBR was pretty low. And it was not a great day for Jared Goff. He threw 12 incompletions. So you have to consider that when evaluating the day. But again, didn't have a whole lot of protection. Didn't have a whole lot of time to get his reads in. I mean, it was like he'd have like half a second and then a guy is, you know, on his neck. You know, it's not much you can do there. Now, the main thought that people have, and I don't blame them for having this thought, is the old offensive coordinator, John Morton. Now, John Morton, he had some play calls, and you can go back and listen to my live reaction and you hear me exactly when it's happening. He had some play calls that I just flat out, fundamentally, in principle, disagree with. What I do not like to see are screen passes on 3rd down and 10 or 3rd down and 5. Or when I'm in a 3rd down spot and I'm choosing to throw the football, unless I'm throwing off an expected blitz, right? And I'm going to get a screen pass out to Gibbs or Montgomery and have space or Jameson, whatever the case might be. I'm not throwing a screen pass. I'm just not going to do it. And I am not in the mode to support that kind of a play call. However, it is pretty hard to establish your offense when your quarterback is getting destroyed within half a second of snapping the football. Two things can be true at once. Morton did not call a very good game. And also, the offensive line struggled, made it very hard to call a good game for any offensive coordinator. Now, here's the thing. All of this in tandem, I think, comes down to this problem that I think many fans in general, not just Lions fans, but in general, especially in the internet age, have struggled with, which is that we have lost the ability to understand what it is like to lose sometimes. Last year was an anomaly in many ways. Going 15-2 was one of the great experiences of my life because it meant that for pretty much the entire season, I was stress-free, and that all immediately came crashing down in the divisional round. The reality is, in the NFL, you are almost certainly going to lose up to 5+ games, even if you're a really good team. I mean, you could go back. You're probably going to lose roughly around 4 to 6 games if you're one of the really, really good teams. This is loss number 3. We're in November. How many more losses will we get? We could get 2. We could get 3. We could even get 4. I don't know. And we cannot just, at each loss, immediately start pointing out that this team is terrible. We're never going to win a championship. We need to fire the OC. We need to fire the DC. We need to fire the G. We cannot be in that mode. It is psychologically not sustainable. All right. And I'm not saying that John Morton is the greatest offensive coordinator ever. I'm not even saying that he doesn't need to lose his job by the end of the year. Here's what I'll say. He got us to 5-3. Let's see where we are in a month from now. If in a month from now, we're, let's say, I'm trying to think of how many games we got. Like, if we're like 7-5, okay, then sure, maybe something is wrong, and obviously, and we see that the offense is the problem. Then sure, maybe we need to make a change at the offensive coordinator role. But the thing about it is, nobody was calling for his head until we lost the game. And if we would have won the game, which we came pretty close to being able to make a crazy comeback and do, people wouldn't be calling for the firing. So that is just what bothers me. And I'm not on the camp that this guy is, the Messiah and we need to keep him. Okay, I have no qualms about potentially having to let him go. But I'm also not going to pretend that it is all him and only him. That's just not true. It's hard to win football games when, again, your offensive line and your running back had a really bad day blocking, and the other team had a really good day defensively. Here's the thing, and I've said this before. Sometimes in the NFL, you will have a game, and it doesn't matter who you're playing, where every single thing goes the other team's way, and not a single thing goes your team's way. I remember in 2023, that was the Baltimore Ravens game. Every single possible good thing went Baltimore's way, and every single possible bad thing went Detroit's way. And we got to remember, too, we've had these tough losses. We haven't had them at home in a long time, but we've had these tough losses. And I am also very confident that this team will be able to bounce back. Now, if they go into Washington and they play another ugly game, win or loss, then we can continue this discussion. But I'm not ready to fire anybody. I'm not ready to say we need to move on. I'm willing to let it sort itself out because you do have a long season ahead of you with the month of November, with a couple of Thursday night games coming up at the end of the month and then into the early part of December. We will see. Now, unfortunately, I would have loved to say that, we made some boosts to our team. We helped the team out. Unfortunately, nothing happened at the trade deadline for Detroit. They opted to stand pat. Now, there are 2 ways of reading this. Way number 1 is that the Lions are satisfied with what they got, and they don't think that they should get better, or they don't want to get better. They want to just run it with their own guys, and they think they got the personnel right now to be able to win a championship. Now, the other way to read it is they wanted to make moves, but the kind of moves that they wanted to make were not feasible or were otherwise unavailable. So there was an interesting stat I saw today. No offensive lineman has been traded at the trade deadline since 2002. So as much as I would have loved to see offensive line addressed at the trade deadline, history has shown that that usually doesn't happen. And outside of maybe Quinnen Williams or Jalen Phillips, there wasn't really anybody that got moved where I was like, man, I really wish the Lions were in on that. And that's not to say that, I'm happy with the trade deadline. I'm not. I'm always happier when you at least add something, even if it is, a smaller deal. It is there is a certain amount of concern that you have that now this is the third year in a row where you had trade deadlines that overall were kind of blah. I mean, I guess the Zadarius Smith trade last year was obviously needed, but it felt more like would they have made that move if Aiden Hutchinson didn't get hurt? Maybe not. So as much as, again, I'm not in the camp of yell and scream and talk about how terrible things are, because that's just not who I am personally. I just don't. There's not much for me to get. I don't know. There's just not much for me. I don't have it in me to get angry. And it's not, if before people say I'm just being a homer, okay, fine. Call me whatever you want. Call me Homer McGee. I don't really care. I can't be angry when I don't know how this story ends. And you could say, well, why are you even talking about sports? I don't know, man. I just think it's fun. Okay. If and when we win on Sunday, people are going to feel good. If we don't win, it's just, there's nothing we can do. Okay. If we don't win, then fine. We'll be angry. I don't know. If we do win, people will talk about how we're the greatest team ever. There's no way out of this. So I'm just going to ride the wave. And then by the end of the season, we'll evaluate it. I said the same thing about the Tigers deadline, or about the Tiger season overall. So I'm not afraid of criticizing the team. I'm just not going to jump the gun unnecessarily. So look, right now I'm already on to Washington. I've forgotten about the Minnesota game. I want to emotionally forget about that game. Get to Washington, blow those guys out, because they're going to be out Marcus Mariota. Wow, if they were out Marcus Mariota, they'd be in real trouble. They're going to be out Jaden Daniels. They're going to be out what's his name? The linebacker. I can't think of his name right now. I was going to say Tutu Atwell. I don't think it's Tutu Atwell. They're going to be out one of their linebackers. They're going to be out a lot of guys. This should be a get right game. Now, if you don't get right, then we might have some problems. We'll acknowledge those when we get there. How about that? Sound good? All right. Thank you. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Hey, YouTube, if you like clips like that, hit the like, hit the subscribe button. We've got live shows every Tuesday night. Hope to see you there.